everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Mel, Wordy Stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram, and this is my channel where I talk about cross stitch and embroidery and some other crafty things that I do. Today is Monday the 6th of June and it's been over a month since my last Flosstube, which wasn't intentional. May just got a little bit crazy busy, and then I was going to film last weekend but I was sick. Not COVID, but I just had a horrible cold and no one needs to listen to me cough and lose my voice trying to do a Flosstube. And then yeah, yesterday and Saturday I was out and about all day. By the time I got home it was a bit dark to film, so this afternoon I am sitting down and filming before, you know, I forget completely what I'm doing. So if you're not into cross stitch, embroidery, crafty things, crochet, those sorts of things, then maybe this video isn't for you and you can wander on off. But welcome back to everyone who is a subscriber and has watched before. It's lovely to hang out with you again. And hello to any new people. So as I said, I'm Mel, Wordy Stitches. I live in Melbourne, Australia, where it's well and truly winter, even though it's only the first week of winter. The weather suddenly turned really arctically cold last week, which wasn't all that pleasant. Winter's not my favorite time of year, but anyway, it's good stitching and crafting weather when we stay in. So let's get on with things, shall we? So firstly, I actually have a fully finished object. So I think last time I talked about the fact I bought a little Mill Hill beaded cross stitch kit to learn how to do beading before I attempt a Mirabilia. That was this little bee gnome. So I finished that last month. It didn't take long. So he stitched on perforated paper. So the kit gives you the flosses and the beads and the perforated paper. And all you really need is some backing fabric. So he's super cute. He is really just adorably cute. I don't know what it is about gnomes, but look at that. He's a gnome and he's bee. So he now hangs near my desk, overseeing the pencil tin, because you can't let those pencils get out of order. But that's my only fully finished object, but I do have one other finish. So this is not ironed, apologies, I'm not a big ironer. So this is Educated by Bent Creek. So this was my Wick Go number 9 for June. So I have started that on the 1st of June, finished it last night. It's not very big, it's like 35 by 70. So it's a quick stitch. I think I saw this on Ellen Maximum Cross Stitch Power Hours YouTube when I was first discovered her and was going back and binging through her old ones. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw this pattern. I found it on Etsy somewhere and ordered it, so it's been sitting waiting to be stitched, which is now done. I think the chart is in Gentle Arts and Weeks with like a solid DMC conversion, and so kind of like the variegation, but so I just grabbed some. This grey is like a variegated DMC, one of the not the 4,000 ones, whatever that I always get which one. Confused which ones are like the, you know, variations and chloris. One of the ones that have like the less subtle variegations, but that one, and then I just used some cottage garden threads as well as a few solid DMCs to do that, but it turned out cute. And this fabric is a mystery grab bag from number 12 Stitch Co, and it's a 20 count Ada in just this nice sort of taupey color. And I have quite a bit of that piece of fabric left, so I'll have to find some other small things to do on that one as well. So it's just stitched one thread over one of the Ada squares. It's 20 count. I don't like 2 threads on 20 count. It gets a bit squeaky. Squishy. Obviously can't talk now. The lighting may go a bit weird. It is like a bit of a dark and a rainy sort of day, so which is why I'm trying to film this afternoon before it gets too dark, but the lighting has been going. The sun's been coming a little bit in and out, so hopefully the lighting's not going to be too weird. My hair, though, is going to stay weird because it's just having a moment today. So let's move on to whips. So my first whip, the one I usually start with, is my Temperature Library by Dr. Kristi, who's Kristi's Corner Needlework here on YouTube, and she's Dr. Kristi on Instagram. So this is like a yearly temperature bookshelf. So one book for each day with the, I'm doing the maximum temperature. And I'll put a picture in of what it should look like when it's finished. Now, because I'm in Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere, the colour order will be different because our hottest time of the year is January, February and December, and currently we're in winter. So this is mine. So I think I just finished April last time we spoke, which was early May. This is on 36 count toasted mellow from number 12 Stitch Co. And I'm doing like sort of a tonal. So I've got like 5 tonal ranges of just DMC. So I've got the sort of corals and then pinks, then teals and then blues, which we're just getting into, which are my coldest colors. And we've already used my second coldest temperature color. That was one of these ones here, I think. Yep, this one here. It's like 12 degrees. And I wasn't sure I was going to get that low. So clearly it's going to be a cold winter here in Melbourne. And for my May knickknacks, so Kristi gives you knickknacks in the pattern, and she has a knickknack expansion pack, but I've sort of been doing knickknacks as I go along and sort of personalizing them a bit. But I did this yarn bowl because I've started my crochet blanket for the year, which I will talk about later on. And then I've done a little star here, which is the day I finished my book tanned in last month, or at the beginning, yes, it was last month, it is June. At the beginning of May, then I'm contemplating doing one here. Might put a lemon here. My parents had this wonderful lemon tree, which was kind of like the never-ending lemon tree. There were always lemons all year round, it didn't matter what. But sadly, I mean, they have lived in their house since the mid-80s, but Mum still lives there, but Dad has passed on. But sadly, the tree fell over a couple of weeks ago, so no more lemon tree, no more free lemons from Mum. So I may put a little lemon in there because I think in the original pattern it had something on there and I just hadn't decided what to put in, but I may do that. So that is my temperature bookshelf from Dr. Kristi. And then my next whip, what have we got? Let's do Dilemma. So this is my long dog sampler that I'm working on. So it's called Dilemma. So you have the grid with 9 spaces and then you have 16 possible tiles. If you put in the 9 spaces, that's the dilemma. So I started this at the start of the year. In between other things, it was a Christmas present from one of my besties. I think I may have convinced to give the temperature library a go on. So come on, bestie. All right, so this is where we're up to. Let me see. I put a photo of where it was last time. But this is where we are up to now. So yeah, so it was a whip go in May, so I did another 5 days. So almost finished the main design here. I think there's just another bird up here, and then I have to take this border across and go down the other side. So that's coming along. So this is just on Antique White 36 count Swigart linen. And the thread is Silks for You PR 123, I think it is, which is this lovely, subtly variegated teal. So that is lots of fun. I may do a few days on it at the end of the month if I finish my other whip go stuff, and the next whip I'm going to talk about as well. It's one of those things where I have to be concentrating, feeling not too tired at the end of the day and stuff to stitch on, because I don't want to spoil the silk and having to unpick. Like, it's very hard to unpick silk. You always end up having to cut it and sort it out, so it feels wasteful to make errors. And then my next one is Ruskin's Penguins, my next whip, which looks like this and is just black and white on whatever colour fabric you want to do. So here is a picture of where that was last time. And then I actually did all right on this one last month. So I finished page 2 and I'm going down to page 3. So I had to sort of come down and do one of the penguins. I will be working on this for this month as well. I think I should be able to finish it. I think the pages were sort of taking me like 5 days to a week. And these bottom 2 pages are shorter, like sort of one of these parts of the border shorter, 1 or 2 shorter than the top one. So I think hopefully I would like to finish this month. So this is Whitsunday linen from number 12 Stitch Co. I think it's a 32 count. So it's just this lovely bluey green, which never shows up well on camera because blues and greens are hard to photograph. So there's Ruskin's penguins. One cannot be angry when one looks at a penguin, so remember that next time you're feeling cross, find a penguin. And it will distract you from whatever is making you cross, hopefully. And then my last whip, which I talked about last time because I was starting it for my May whip go. So it's a sort of freehand embroidery pattern project rather than cross stitch. And, oh, sorry, crinkle, crinkle, can't open the bag. So it's called Journey to Nowhere Match, which is Hare's Nest Stitchery, who are 2 sort of embroidery designers and artists here in Australia. So it's sort of for a free-form map little booklet thing, but I'm just going to do it as an overall map rather than making the booklet. Let me see if there's... Yeah. So this was her map that folds up into a booklet, so I'll just do a more traditional whole page map. So it's going to be a longer term project because it's quite big. So it's a kit. So the kit comes with the linen, some stencils and things, and the instructions, some backing fabric, some other bits of lovely Liberty fabric if you want to do applique in it. They have some applique in theirs. I don't know if I'll do applique in mine, but so because I'm a writer, and one of the things I write is fantasy books, I thought it might be fun to do a map of one of my actual fictional countries or worlds. So I started doing the maths. This is like 5 days worth. So these are like the coastlines. So I'm just using blanket stitch sort of on a ground color on the inside, and then blues around the edges. Just did a little compass, and then so this world has one big continent and then another smaller huge island, a big continent next to it. So this one I've done like the blanket stitch, and then just running stitch to indicate the water. So it's fun. So I'm using cottage garden threads, so lots of nice variegated threads. So yeah, so that continent will sort of go up all around here, and then I'll fill in some details and things. I mean, it's not going to be entirely accurate. I think in my books I said there's something like 50 countries in that continent. I'm not going to stitch 50 different countries and their borders and outlines, but I'll put in a few key ones. But it's just fun to play with something that's embroidery rather than cross stitch, and hopefully I might finally... I don't know what it is about blanket stitch in my brain. Like I can do it really easily once I check the diagram, but every time I have to stop and check the diagram. How do I start this again? Because you sort of go up and loop it through, and yeah. Anyway, it's very simple stitch, but my brain apparently has a bit of a mental block when it comes to blanket stitch. But I figure by the time I've stitched this map and done all that border in blanket stitch, maybe it will stick in until next time, or maybe not. And I'll be due to looking up a cross stitch, a YouTube demonstration every time I want to do it. But that's my map. So those are my cross stitch whips. And then I was going to talk about my blanket, and I've actually just thought that I didn't actually I grabbed some of my finished blankets to show you, but I haven't brought my actual blanket whip over, so hang on. Okay, I'm back. Right, we are now organized. So I think in a couple of my earlier floss tubes, I've talked about the fact that for the last few years, I've made an Attic 24 crochet blanket. So Attic 24 is Lucy, and she's had a crochet blog for ages, and she very kindly releases these free blanket patterns, 1 or 2 a year. And she does, you know, some other smaller projects in between, but they're usually, you know, they're fairly straightforward patterns. So they're a stripe or some sort of granny square, which are fairly easy to do. And she just comes up with these gorgeous palettes, and she talks about, you know, what inspired her and how she's put it together. So must have been 2019. I knew of her blog and I looked at it every so often, but I'd only ever really crocheted like teeny tiny things. I'd done one like granny square lap blanket, but I didn't learn to crochet as a kid. I learned it as an adult. My sister-in-law taught me, and because I wanted to do amigurumi, so I've mainly done amigurumi. But in 2019, let's call it 2019, she released her June blanket, which is this one with this lovely shell pattern. Now let's see how we're going to do these colors. Let me do, because this is like a single bed size blanket, so it's kind of hard to show you. So those are the colors, and I just really liked that palette, so I thought I'm going to give this a go. I didn't know if I would like crocheting something that big, and I figured, well, I can always stop at sort of lap blankets size if I really hate it, and it will be fine. So I did it and I liked it. I really like the fact that because it's a stripe, and each stripe is sort of made of 2 rows, which takes 45 minutes to an hour, which is sort of a good amount of crochet for me to do at night by the TV. So one of them usually takes me about 3 months to make. So that was 2019's blanket. That's the first one I did. And she has quite a back catalogue of blankets. So 2020, which is, as we know, we all started being in lockdown and stuff, so I decided I would do another one. Okay, so this is her neat wave pattern, and the palette she did for this was called Moorland, which I have made the Moorland one for my mum. So let me put a picture of Moorland here. So this is the one that I've made for my mum. These nice sort of, as you can see, colours of an English moor with the greens and the heathery purples and things. So I made that one for my mum last year. But firstly, I made, when I saw the shape of the pattern, I thought, oh, that would look really nice in sort of beachy colours. I'm a bit of a beachy girl. And she had another blanket, which I think is a ripple pattern, called Coast, which was a beachy palette, but it's an English beachy palette. So it had some grassy greens and a few more greys and sort of different sandy colours and things. Now I'm an Aussie, so I grew up with Aussie beaches. So I just tweaked that palette slightly to make it more Aussie. Hopefully you can see most of the colours there. And again, this is a single bed size. So that was lots of fun. So let me put a picture of it finished there. Did I put one of the June in? There's one of June, or ignore me if I've already put one in. Okay, so that was last year, and then last year one of my work friends had a baby, so I made her a baby blanket, which was also based on a Lucy pattern, her Dahlia spike stitch. So this is the baby blanket, because I don't have it anymore, obviously. And I just picked, those colours as sort of, I didn't know whether she was having, or maybe I did know she was having a boy. Anyway, I just liked those colours, kind of a bit different and fresh. And then this year, and I haven't gotten a long way yet. So this year I'm making the Dahlia blanket for myself in Lucy's Dahlia colour palette, which is sort of pinks and reds and things. So let's put a picture of what it will look like here. So she usually, with the stripes, she often does, so she picks the colours and she does these random stripe orders. Well, they're not random, she works out what they should be, and then she often gives like a colour wash version as well. So this Coast is random stripes. So I have to tweak that a bit. And then the Dahlia, no, this is June. Let's hold this up. So this is a colour wash. So, it goes through the blues, and then you start to add in the green, and then you start to add in the aqua, and then the next colour, and then the next colour. So you get sort of a more gradient effect. And I'm doing that for the Dahlia as well, because I just liked, from the pictures I've seen, I liked how that looked a little bit more than the stripes. It's got some mean, I'm a bit of a pink girl, but I'm not really a yellow and orange girl much, and it's got some of those, but I do love dahlias, so I'm doing that. So I've only gotten this far. So I've got a bit to do. That's better. That's the spike stitch. So yes, I've got a ways to go. I'm not even at 10 stripes yet. I haven't been in a super crochet mood since I started it, so I'm just, because last month there were 3 whip go calls and various things, so I was just trying to get everything done. So hopefully this month, given I've already finished one whip go, being my educated, I will fit in some crochet time as well. And it's definitely getting cold, so that's incentive to crochet at night, because as the blanket grows, you start to be nice and warm as you crochet. So those are my crochet blankets. I've put a picture in of the dahlia palette. So the wool that Lucy uses, or yarn I should say, it's called Stylecraft DK, so it's an acrylic. It's got a really good colour range. There's about 80, 90 colours maybe. It washes well, it's nice and soft, so it doesn't feel like too plasticky like some acrylics do. It's not that expensive, so you can afford to buy enough to make a blanket without bankrupting yourself. That is the problem with making a pure wool blanket. It's a lot of yarn, particularly with crochet, because crochet takes more yarn than knitting. So those are my blankets. So that is my other whip. All right, what are we up to? Okay. Haul. Okay, so let's start with what just arrived today. So I wanted to buy just some plain white Aida, and I wanted to try the platinum Swigart linen. So I put in an order with Itchy Stitchy because she sort of had the sizes I wanted. And so she's an Aussie cross-stitch embroidery store, and she's actually started in the last year or so doing her own range of stranded cottons. So I thought, well, I'll order some of those to try because they are cheaper than the DMC. And so she, you know, she has, I can't remember how many colours has, but she sells these little, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 8 sort of palette packs. So this was the beachy one. And I thought, well, it'll be good because it's got the white, so you can see what the white's like, some neutrals, and then some beachy blues, which I will have no trouble using. So I got that, and then I just bought the black as well to try to see how it compares to 310, whether it's a bit better coverage. Because, you know, we were always looking for slightly more full coverage blacks than 310. So that was Itchy Stitchy. I got, because I can't resist, a couple more linens from number 12 Stitch Company. I think these are both 36 count. No, 32, I'm lying. This one's 32. So this is antique lace. So it's actually, to my eye in person, it's a little bit more yellowy green than it's showing up. Yeah, it's just got that faint warmer tinge, like that's showing up fairly beigey cool in the camera, I think. But it's just that little bit more yellowy, so that will be nice. And then I got a piece of weathered. Now this is interesting because, so this is 36 count. Now I've had weathered before, and you know, and in 36 count, and it was much more sort of like a pale grey with this sort of mottling in these sort of taupey shades. But due to the, you know, the joys of hand dyeing, like Nicola just said, this batch has come out darker, and it's a lovely colour. It's just this very nice cool taupey brown, which I think will look nice for a few projects patterns I have, so that's good. But it's just the, you know, hand dyeing, you know, chemistry, and I know people have been having troubles with getting the dyes and supply chain and things, and who knows what the manufacturers are doing in the other end. So it just goes to show you that from one batch to the next they can look quite differently. So I guess if you really want something that's close to a piece that you've had before, not a bad idea to contact the dyer and say, what's this batch like? If they're a small enough dyer that they would probably answer that question for you, like not the big ones who are just gonna go, it's whatever. And Nicola is lovely, so that is good. And what else have I bought? Let's talk about patterns, which I've just realized I've also left. Oh no, here they are. seriously, forget my head if it wasn't screwed on at the moment. So, you know, even though I bought a lot of patterns last time, I have bought a couple. So after I finished the gnome, I thought he was really cute. And they do have a few more gnomes in that series, but I don't like them as much as the bee. So I went looking on Etsy to see if I could find some. There's lots of cute gnome patterns on Etsy, but I saw this one, which is a gnome with a book, and who can resist that? So that is from SA Patterns. I think she's a Ukrainian designer. And then yeah, so it might be Patterns by SA Stitch on Etsy. And then I also bought this, as I said, lemons. Lemon gnome, which has got another one, lemon gnomes, which is like a longer one with smaller ones, like the blue one. There's like 4 or 5 of them, which are cute too. So a couple of gnomes to stitch. One the stitchy gnome urge hits me. Maybe I can finish them into little ornaments like the other one. And then the other one that I think I showed this in one of my pattern crushes, and I've been umming and ahhing and putting it in my cart and taking my out of my cart, so I just bought it the other day. So this is Water Galah by Crafty Like Fox. And I think on Etsy there's something like Fox You Are So Crafty or something. I can't remember. But anyway, so this is something that might look, I think that's not that different to that shade that's in the thing. What am I talking about? On the piece of paper. Words, Mel. Words are good. So galahs are an Aussie parrot, and they are grey and this sort of lovely corally and pale pinks and whites, and they're very cute. They make a terrible noise like most parrots, but they're very pretty, and they've always been one of my favourite Aussie birds. So I thought I will make the galahs. So those were a couple of patterns I bought. And then, speaking of patterns, now last time I showed you the books that I had bought with the German designers, and talked about how I like, you know, florals. Now the other, Amazon is always recommending Thea, I'm going to try and say it the French way, Gouveneur, I'm assuming it is, something like that. Apologies, French people. Kits to me. And she has some beautiful florals and things, but like the kits are quite big, and I don't always want to buy a kit. I have a pretty good stash of threads, so I could probably make a start on those kits. But you know, very pretty ones kept coming up, and I was looking at them. I thought, I wonder if she's ever written a book, because she's been around for a while. And I thought, so I went onto Amazon and I had a look, and yes, she does have a couple of books. I'm not sure if they're still in print, but the prices on Amazon were quite expensive, so I thought I'm just gonna have a poke around on books for secondhand, and I found both her books secondhand for not many dollars, shall we say. So I would like to do some of these. So she just does these sort of quite realistic florals, and it's a bit hard for me to show you many because a lot of the pictures are on the page next to the chart in the book, but just some really pretty florals. Some of them are quite big, but some of them are not too bad. So I think there's a couple of daffodil ones. I really like daffodils. One of my favourite flowers, so I think I will be doing a couple of those as well at some point. And then the other thing I bought, so I think I told you, right, let's talk hoops. So the main hoop I use, or have been using, is this clover embroidery hoop, which I sort of bought when I got back into doing some embroidery a few years ago. Now I like this because it's got this, like, it's plastic, it's quite comfy, it's light, it's lasted pretty well because, you know, I've had it a good few years now. And it's got, like, the screw is covered over, so you very rarely get your thread tangled in the screw, which is nice. And it just comes back. So that's the main hoop I've been using. I think I said a few times ago that I'm using a lap stand mostly that doesn't fit a Q-snap, and waiting on one to be made that will fit a Q-snap eventually. But so I've been using my hoop a lot. I have a bad habit of holding my hoop in my hand, but if I do that too much, I get a sore shoulder. So I try and use the lap stand. And then I've been looking at some square hoops, and I bought this Nerge plastic square hoop, which was inexpensive. Now I've been using this on my map, and it's nice because it gives me that bigger area, but it's quite thin. It does hold the fabric well. I've got no complaints with how it works as a hoop. It's quite thin, which is a little bit less comfortable to hold, and the edges are, well, I guess they're about as pointy as the plastic edges on this, but I think because it's thinner, I'm holding it tighter. So it's just, and like if I want to use it in my lap stand, then I have to put extra fabric to get the grip, so it can be a little bit of a pain, particularly with, you know, by the time I've got that big map piece of fabric in and stuff. So it works really well as a hoop. So if you're looking for an inexpensive square hoop, I think it's not a bad option, depending on how you like to hold things. But then I'd also seen a couple of places, probably on it's a Needle and Thread. Here's what's Mary Corbett's blog called. I'd seen her talking about Hardwick Manor hoops, and at one point she did a post about their square round hoops, which look like this. So it's about as wide across, so it's 7.5 by 5.5, I think. So this is a 7.5 hoop. So it's about as wide as cross, but it's a bit narrow. So for things like educated, like the whole thing fitted in there, and that was really good. It's a really nice, well-made wooden hoop. It's really smooth. I've bound the inner hoop just to see how that goes. I've also got a round Nerge hoop, which is thicker, that I need to bind as well. But I'm really liking this size. It's nice and light. It's actually lighter than the Clover hoop. And it's good if I do stitch in hand, like the square end rests nicely against your body if you want to do that, and holds it stable. I do think they come in, so this is a 5/16, and I was looking on Access Commodities, and I do think they come in like a 5/8 and maybe a wider one, which I don't really want the widest one, but I think a 5/8 would be a nice width too for holding in your hand, because it's a little bit wider than the Nerge one, but not as wide as my Clover. So I haven't tried it in my lap stand yet, because with the cat I was being bad and just holding it in my hand, but it's really comfy. It holds the fabric nice and tight. They're not cheap hoops, these Hardwick Manor ones, particularly in Australia, where we get charged double for everything because of exchange rates and shipping and stuff. So I think you can get wider ones. If anyone has like a 5/8 one, let me know. I haven't found one in Australia, so I'd probably have to ask a nice store to order it for me if I decided I needed another one. But I will see how I get along with this one for a while. But I'm just really liking this shape. It's really comfy to hold. It gives you that wider area than a circle does, and an actually bigger stitching area than a circle does. Like that's a little bit shorter, but not much shorter, but it's definitely wider. So I think probably move your hoop around less, depending on what size projects you do. And once I have my stand that will hold a Q-snap, where I usually sit on the couch, I can use my Lowry work stand to hold a Q-snap, but I have to sort of move around where I'm sitting on the couch and reorganize things. So that's not quite as convenient. I will probably use Q-snaps again because I like Q-snaps, but you know, if I'm going away somewhere with some stitching, I just take a hoop. So this is my new Hardwick Manor hoop, and I did have on the inside, it's got these marks so you could see exactly which way the hoop was meant to go, because they always fit better if they're one particular side and way up. So I tried to finish my binding in the same place, so I know roughly, that's got some stitches, so I know roughly where they line up. So that is my hoop talk. Who's got a favourite hoop that they like to recommend? I mean, I've got some of those flexi ones, but I think they're probably best for finishing. And, you know, in the past I used cheapo, you know, spotlight ones and things where they're always a bit snaggy and they break and they don't hold the fabric as well. So I think I've decided that, you know, because the stitching is probably here to stay this time, even if I do a bit less in the future, I can't see myself giving it up entirely again. So I think it's okay to invest in a nice hoop or two. So I think that is all my haul. I thought this was going to maybe take longer. Maybe I've been talking really fast. Apologies if I've been talking really fast. But I think I'm only up to about 35 minutes, so that's not too bad. So let's talk about pattern crush. I usually talk about a few patterns that have been catching my eye. There's lots of cool pride ones floating around, sort of too many to show at the moment. Oh no, I did buy one more thing. Let's talk about haul. Okay, so I bought, so this is a Kathy Barrick pattern called HL's Moth. So it's a reproduction of an antique stitch. And I just really like the colours in that moth. I'm not someone who's worried about moths and butterflies, and I just, you know, I like dusty pinks and those sorts of things. I'm actually thinking about getting some new pinkish curtains in my bedroom at some point. So this might be nice to do and hang on the wall in there. So, and Kathy Barrick was having a sale over the weekend, so I thought I'm going to grab that one. It's another one that probably wouldn't look too bad on this. I mean, the fabric that she's done it on is a bit warmer, and I do have some warmer ones, but I think it might also look quite nice on something like that. So that was my other haul. So really enough haul for anyone. Okay, pattern crushes. Let's talk about pattern crushes. So yeah, lots of cool pride patterns I've been seeing. Modern Folk Embroidery has a really nice big sampler one, which I might do at some point. But I have too many big things on the go at the moment, so I have resisted it so far. All right, so what I do with patterns is I try to be good, and I try and save favorites on Etsy or save favorites on Instagram so I can come back and see them. So here are a couple from that I have seen lately. So this one, which I think is called Japanese Flowers and Baby Boars, which someone on Instagram posted they'd finished it. Now I, as we know, am a bit of a sucker for teals and pinks and corals. I just thought that was really cute. So it's by Gera. I don't know who, looking at the names, maybe a Japanese designer. And on Creative Poppy, the pattern, it's actually got another, it's a like a 2 pattern thing as a sewing kit is designed to be, but I would just make it as a flat piece and then finish it somehow, I think. And there's like a swallow with flowers as well as the other part of the pattern, which is really pretty as well. So that one. Stitchrovia a little while ago posted this stationery pattern. Now, as a writer and someone who's a bit of a stationery nut, likes a striped mug, this quite appealed to me. It's quite big, I think. That would be a solid stitch because there's lots of big solid elements, so that would take a lot of stitch, but it's cute. And you could pull out the typewriter or the notebook or something if you wanted to, or a pen, so that is cute. This one, which is Lola Crow. Now Lola Crow did my Nessie claws that I showed last time, and I just like this kitty attacking the plant. My current cat is relatively uninterested in plants, but I did have a Burmese who used to like chomping on the houseplants, so you have to be careful what houseplants you have around them, because lots of them are toxic to cats and dogs. So, but I just thought that's very cat-like to, oh, let me just play with these dangly things, Mum. So that's another cute one. So that is the pattern crush. I had a question, and I don't know whether it was on YouTube or Instagram, or even one of my friends was asking me about, because I've been doing lots of stitching, they're like, oh, how are you going to frame them all? What are you going to do with them all? Now, I'm not someone who thinks you necessarily have to do crafts with a end in mind. Like, I'm a bit of a process stitcher rather than a product stitcher. I enjoy the process of stitching and I like the finished products, but yeah, it's the act of stitching that is the relaxing and meditative thing for me that I like, and the colors and the sensation of the fabric. So for me, it's part of self-care to actually do the stitching rather than worry so much about what I was going to do with them all. So I've only fully finished a few things. The 2 years being in lockdown and not able to go and look at any frames and things hasn't really helped. But I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking I need to pick a few to at least frame. And I've bought some upholstery thread and stuff so I can lace them, because I was actually taught how to do that in school. So I'm sure it will come back to me, and I'm sure there's lots of good YouTube videos as well. I know Lindy Stitches has got a good one, and I think I've heard that Kitten Stitcher has a good one on how to lace projects. But I was actually looking on, who was it? Someone had a good hem stitching tutorial. Susan Standley had a really good Flosstube a couple of weeks ago on how to do hem stitches, which is where you can finish a piece of cross stitch so it won't fray at the edges and things, but you don't have to necessarily frame it. You could just hang it, or you know, on a, what do you call it when you got the rod and the string? Anyway, you could hang it in other ways, or you can use it on a spool or something like that, and just hem stitching. So I think that's actually not a bad idea. I've actually got some poster hangers that I've got tea towels in, and I think a hem stitch cross stitch would actually still work in a poster hanger. I know on Etsy, when I went looking, there's quite a few places that sell more than just your standard poster size posted hangers, so down to quite small, so you could do some quite small cross stitches. So I might do that. And then on Instagram the other day, something flashed up which was it's like a black frame, and it's almost like a shadow box with a door that opens, and the back is magnetic. It's designed for kids' artwork, so you pop your kids' artwork in there with a magnet, and a couple of weeks later when they've got something new, you switch it out. I thought, well, that's another good option that could work well for cross stitch. I'll see if I can find a picture and put it in, but I don't know if I actually saved it. And I thought, you know, again, you could hem stitch cross stitch, or just finish it with some backing fabric and whack it in there, and when you want to change it out, just change it out. So like my place is fairly small, and I do have a fair bit of art on the walls as well, so it's not like I have room for massive amounts of cross stitch all hung together. I don't know, Brenda from Brenda and the Serial Starter was saying she's, you know, trying to focus on doing more smalls because she is running out of wall room. Like, she's been stitching a lot longer than me, but yes, you do eventually, you can't frame everything and have everything hanging on the wall. So I'm just thinking about some other options. I will probably do some ornaments. I also think, yeah, like smaller pieces, just finished sort of ornament style with some mat board or something, or foam core. And a backing fabric with a little hanger that I could swap around on various little hooks I have around the place, and things will be fun as well. So just thinking about finishing. So if anyone has some fun finishing tutorials, or a favorite way they like to finish things that's not just a framing, bit out of the box. I don't have a room for lots of small pillows and things. I'm going to do a few, but again, sort of don't have many places where I can display like a bowl of pillows or something, and I do kind of wonder about the temptation factor with cats with small stuffed things, given that most of her toys are small stuffed things. I'm not sure she would necessarily appreciate the difference between the ones that she is allowed to chew on and massacre versus my cross stitch, which I would probably prefer her not to chew on and massacre. So we're just thinking about those, but I'll probably do another finish braid, I guess, at some point. I've noticed a few people doing mid-year whips and finishes parades, and I don't have that many whips. I'm not someone who has a lot of whips going at a time. I've got my few big patterns, and then I try and churn through a couple of smaller ones and things, you know, Ruskin's penguin size, you know, not that long. And then I've got my ongoing big ones, so the temperature bookshelf, which I think of it as a long-term project, like a year-long project rather than a big project, because the actual stitching at any one time is not that much. I tend to do a book every day or 2 or 3 days, so I'm only ever stitching on it for up to an hour at a time, I guess, if I'm doing a knick-knack and something. But most days would be like 10-15 minutes to stitch one book. But things like Dilemma and my Atlantis, you know, that's a multi-month, possibly multi-year type project. And I've got a few other big ones that I would like to do, so I've got to figure out how many big whips I am comfortable with having versus, and then throwing in some medium size like Ruskin's penguins or some of the other smaller sampler size things that I like. But those have lots of stitching as well, so still working out what I like. I am someone who likes to finish a project. I don't mind having a few things on the go, but I do have the sort of brain that likes ticking things off, which is why doing a stripe crochet blanket works well for me, because I can tick off a stripe as I go and just see the number I have left going down. So anyway, that is some waffly thoughts about finishing and framing at the end. I know Michelle Bendy has, she has some of her small stuff just in a art journal. She has lovely handmade journals, scrap journals, sort of things that she sticks them in and does some journaling and collage in. And I think for some small ones, that's not a bad idea either. You could use like a nice sketchbook with acid-free paper, or, you know, get the handmade type ones, or make one yourself as well. There is part of me that goes, oh, I don't know if I want to glue stitching, but that's probably just something that I will get over once I've made a few ornaments and things. Like, you know, when I learned, it was all about lacing them to be framed or finished into a bookmark, or, you know, if you embroidered on a tea towel or something, it doesn't need to be finished clearly, but most of the things that we did, the intention was that it would be laced to be framed rather than doing like little pillows and ornaments and things, until I sort of got back into YouTube last year and Flosstube. I hadn't really seen a lot of that sort of stuff, and just learning lots still about what I want to do, and lots to try and experiment with. All right, so plans. So my other WhipGo project, as I said, is, so Educated I finished. The other one is map, so I've got to do another 5 days on the map, which I should be able to do no problem. And then, yeah, I will try and finish Ruskin's penguins, I think. And then if that's finished, I'll see. I'm kind of having like a little bit of a small quick urge as well, so I might have a look at some of my smaller projects, and a couple of Christmassy ornament things might be fun to do. So if I stitch them now, I might have a hope of actually finishing them by Christmas time to hang up around the place. So those are my plans. So yeah, do the map, hopefully finish Ruskin's penguins, and then I'll be able to pick another sort of medium-sized project to start, which will be hard. We'll have to see what's calling to me at the time. And yeah, and then we'll see what else happens, and yeah, do more than another 6 stripes on my blanket. Because it's getting cold, so we need another blanket, because, you know, can't have too many crochet blankets. I've got my granny rectangle one that I did ages ago too. That's kind of the cat's blanket now. I figure if I give her that one, she'll stay off the Attic 24 ones, which were more labor intensive. So anyway, that's me. I will stop rambling on. I hope you are all well and safe and enjoying the summer if you are in the northern hemisphere and it's not too horribly hot. I know some parts of the US seem to have gone, like we've gone cold really quickly and they've gone hot really quickly. So I hope that you're having a lovely summer, getting some family holiday time in and stuff. Me, I have a book out in a couple of weeks, so I've started writing my new book, so I am head down in lots of writing work, which I will get back to after I finish this. But it was lovely to catch up with you, and I will see you next time. Hopefully not in another month. Trying to think, 2 weeks. I know I've got a couple of things on that weekend, so maybe 3 weeks. We'll try for 3 weeks perhaps, because I'm not sure how much exciting I will have to show you, because I haven't bought anything else. Famous last words. So not expecting to have much haul for the next one. And yeah, stitch wise, just working on a couple of whips. So maybe it will just be a short one in a couple of weeks, and we'll see how we go from there. But all right, I will talk to you next time, and